My Island Home, Australia, by Oni Wong, Russell Lee, 2046. Narrated by Janine Penfold and David Tredinnick. This story is also narrated in Cantonese.
This is an immigrant's tale. It covers a broad sweep of historical and personal events which shaped my father's destiny, character, and life. My father's story begins with his parents' story. We trace his father's early footsteps departing China at the end of the Qing dynasty to his arrival on the Fiji Islands where my father was born. As his daughter, I often wondered what drove him and moulded his nature, and now, at the venerable age of 96 years, he has opened to me about his early life. This is his story, and these are his words.
It was the end of the Qing dynasty in China, and the Han Chinese people were free at last from the oppressions of their Manchu rulers. My father cut off his queue, the hairstyle imposed by decree by the emperor. China was teeming with revolutionary activity, and chaos reigned, with warring factions and fighting that ended centuries of dynastic rule in China, culminating in the last emperor of China, Hu Yi, being ousted. My father, at the age of 17, set out to escape this turmoil in China and boarded a steamer to Fiji in the South Pacific. On this South Pacific island, he enjoyed a quiet and peaceful new beginning and had a modicum of success in his trading, so much so that he soon sent for his wife in China to join him on the island. Together they raised 10 children. There was an 11th child, one half of a twin who did not survive. My parents adapted to this hard, primitive island life. We were very poor, and when my little sister died, my father had to build a little coffin to bury her himself. Ours was a basic life. For blankets, we used rough Hessian potato sacks and slept on wooden planks with a mat. Food was gathered from the sea, mainly fish and crabs. From the gardens and forests, we fossicked for wild fruit and taro. We could not afford to buy bread, but collected thrown-out bread ends from the local cafe to have for our breakfast. Despite the hardships, my father and mother scraped together enough to purchase a modest little house. We children made do without material things, but we were content, as we only knew island life. At this time, my father would often send me to the little corner store in our village with 20 cents to collect a mysterious package. It was the middle of the night when we had to leave our house, and we walked for 2 miles through the dark into the countryside. I was frightened, cold, tired, and hungry. All I had were my brothers and sisters beside me. We huddled together for warmth. I was 5 years of age. The 20 cents paid for a packet of opium. My father smoked the opium in a little corner of our house. He became addicted and soon was in rental arrears. Our house was repossessed. Thankfully, we were offered a little farm cottage in the countryside by local missionaries. It was on 3 acres from town, with no running water or electricity. Luckily, it had a stream nearby, and the countryside was abundant with wild fruit trees full of breadfruit, guavas, passion fruit, coconuts, and mangoes, along with sugarcane. We grew rice, cassava, and sweet potatoes. We collected firewood for all our cooking and heating. We were poor, but we adapted. We enjoyed catching fish in the stream and climbing trees for wild fruit. China was at war with Japan, and when Pearl Harbor was attacked, the Americans entered the war. Fiji was under threat of Japanese invasion, and there was fighting close to Fiji, in the Coral Sea. The Americans set up a base and built up military forces and defensive installations on the island. This had a major economic impact on Fiji. My sister and her new husband ran a small store in the village and grew prosperous selling to the US servicemen. When war ended in 1945, I went back to school. My sister and her husband then decided to return to China to begin a new life there. It was 1949, and the Chinese Revolution had occurred. Mao Zedong declared the creation of the People's Republic of China. Unable to return to China, my sister and her husband were stranded in Sydney, where they decided to stay. The White Australia policy was in force then. Visas were difficult to obtain for non-whites, but my sister was able to stay as she operated an import business. They soon sent for me to come join them to help with their expanding business in Sydney. How often in my dreams, sweetheart, I wanted to be with you, dear, beneath the old oak tree, to watch that pale moon in all its glory, and to tell all our dreams, which we used to do. So, in 1951, I sold my Indian motorbike for $160, bid farewell to family, and flew across the Pacific to join my sister in my new island home, Australia. I left behind my family, friends, and my sweetheart. Those words, sweetheart, I wish we never uttered that to another. I have given my heart. I found I was wrong, dear, but it's too late. Forever we shall be so far apart. Gone are all plans we dreamed and desired, and yet these lonely nights of heartaches and pain. I'd give this whole wide world if I could only be free to steal a dream with you again.
Epilogue. My father learnt early in his life to be resourceful. Despite some early setbacks, he rose above them. He recognised opportunities, and through hard work, he quickly got his bearings and established a better life. He never forgot, however, what it was like to be evicted and homeless, and this is what drove him. Throughout his long life, family has always been his touchstone. His new island home, Australia, has been lucky for him. The end.